everyone, and welcome to what is going to be the first in a very low-key, relaxed series that Anne and I are not guaranteeing however many we will make of these, but we have some ideas after recording our reread, rewrite, burn video together, and we want to do these gradually over the year, and we thought it would be fun if you could join along with us. And so we are going to call it Excessively Diverted, which is a phrase that is used in Pride and Prejudice, and I think it's such a captivating phrase. So, Anne, thank you for joining me in this venture.
I'm so excited. I love chatting with you, and it's so great to be here and talk about books.
Yes. So Anne has kind of stepped back from doing booktube videos, and so for now, this is a way we can all have some Anne booktube content. And in honor of Middle Grade March, we're both having a blast during Middle Grade March, and we are going to talk about some childhood favorites. But could we briefly, before that, I don't want to put you on the spot, so maybe I'll go first for this, talk about a highlight that you've had during Middle Grade March. I think mine has been The Island of Horses by Eilis Dillon. And this is one of these exceptional adventure stories where most adventure stories kind of sacrifice characterization. And then I just feel like, oh, I didn't get to know the characters that well. The writing is so beautiful in this. It's set off the Connemara coast in Ireland.
Oh,
and there is this well-known island of horses where these wild horses live. It's a really small island, and there's a lot of superstition and legends about the island. There are supposed to be ghost horses also that, travel around the island at night. And these two boys have heard stories from, one of the boys is named Pat, from his grandmother. She was born on the Island of Horses and has really missed it since they moved from it. So they decide to go on an adventure. And I just love it. It describes the landscape so beautifully. You really feel like you are traveling in a book. And it has a really meaningful conclusion to it, which you don't necessarily expect with something that has, intrigue. And there are a couple of people who don't really have their best interests in mind. And yeah, it just kept me on the edge of my seat. And so I'm looking for more classic adventure tales. If anyone has any suggestions, I would be very open to them.
You have sold me on this one. I think I'm going to have to pick that up next because I'm looking for something for St. Patrick's Day. I grew up around a lot of Irish culture. I was an Irish dancer. My had an Irish grandfather. So this is going to be perfect for this week, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted something Irish for this month, and Eilis Dillon was an Irish author, and she has another book that I think she was more famous for, which of course I can't remember the name of right now, but I was like, ooh, I definitely want to try that after. It's one of those ones that I had to stick with it for like 3 chapters before I decided whether I was interested enough. Okay. And then it was just steady going.
Well, that sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. So now I have another book. Every time we talk, I always add like 10 books to my reading list, and I love it. So I'm going to have to check that one out. I would definitely say a real highlight for me was The Year of Miss Agnes, which I'll talk about more when we do Kindred Spirits, but it's for your Kindred Spirits Club. So, excited that I found that through you. And I just love a good teacher story. So I'll just say, if you like inspiring teacher stories, definitely check that one out. And then I'm a big American Girl book fan. So I just finished the Julie series. I've been trying to read some of the historical dolls that I didn't read growing up. So I read like the main 6, but I've been slowly over the past couple of years just picking up different ones. This was the 1970s, and I've just finished her series, like I said, and I really loved one called Julie and the Eagles, which is about these endangered baby eagle family. It's like a baby eagle and the mom and dad. And it is, that was really heartwarming and cute and cozy. And I like the day-to-day life that these stories kind of have to them. And then I really loved one about the bicentennial in 1976, where she goes on a wagon train, which was a real thing. I guess a whole bunch of Americans loaded in covered wagons, just like the pioneers, and did a little pilgrimage to Valley Forge, where President Ford gave a talk, and they presented these scrolls to him that they had kind of collected through these towns where people had signed a rededication to the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. So it was so cool. I really like that book.
That is so cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that in Philadelphia there's a district called the Centennial District, and
Oh,
they put
cool.
up all these beautiful buildings.
Hmm.
And then they're used for things like the Children's Museum. So it's just in this
Very
really
cool.
beautiful old building. Yeah. Oh, that sounds so cool. I
It's so
loved
interesting that all these people like went to Pennsylvania. They said they wanted to do like a reverse pioneer situation, and there are all these families for weeks and weeks and weeks were traveling these back roads and these, fields. And I mean, it's crazy. And it was just, I don't know, I didn't know it was a real thing. And the back of the book, I don't like the newer books because they're abridged, the ones that American Girl sells. So I have the older
Oh.
editions, the first editions,
Mhm.
and they have a looking back section. So it had this whole section about with pictures and the history of this people actually doing this in 1976.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea there were a group of people that did that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Wow. So we are going to talk about, we each have 6 beloved children's books, middle grade kind of chapter books. And these
Mhm.
are not our only 6 that we love, but we're trying not to
Yes.
be repetitive. So we're not really going to talk about any that were mentioned in our reread, rewrite, or burn episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, Anne, would you like to share your first book?
Sure. Yeah. So my disclaimer is I still love Anne of Green Gables and Little Women, but we're not going to talk about it today because I talk about it enough. So I wanted to grab one that I feel like maybe not as many people have heard about that I just loved as a child. And it's called Hitty, Her First 100 Years. And it is about a doll, which I usually don't think I would like a book about an inanimate object, but it is so much fun. It follows this doll from the time that she is made and kind of coming into being. It's her memoirs, and so it's kind of got like a cute tone to it because she begins her memoirs, and I think this was written in 1929 or the 1920s, so it's kind of from the 1820s to the 1920s. So it's a little bit of like a vintage kind of classic children's book, and it her adventures are so harrowing because she has this beloved little girl, but then of course as the years go by she finds herself in different shops and different children's care and different situations, and it has a few illustrations. Let me find the page. I was going to show you this one because I think it's very funny. It says, I did not make much of a showing among the other dolls, and it has poor little Hitty right here next to these big dolls, and she's like the 1820s little small doll, and dolls are evolving, and they're fancier, and there's little pictures where she lives with one child and she gets a desk and she's very excited about it. But you would be surprised how much you care about her because like adventurous things happen or she falls into dangerous situations, and you're kind of, I remember as a kid just like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And there are times where you feel almost like emotional and sad, or you feel just like you're laughing, and it's just kind of got everything. And I just adored this book so much. And I think it's perfect for anyone who loves Toy Story, who's ever thought about the toys, have thoughts or come alive, or especially anyone who has ever thought about the life of antiques. I think that fascinates me. When you find an
Ooh.
antique, think how many people have had this. And so this kind of answers that question. And I just adore this book.
You have spurred me on, and I know that Emma from Bookish Princess has just been rereading her copy.
Really?
Yes,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. So
We
I
always
know.
tend to like a lot of the same books, so I'm
Yes.
not
Oh,
surprised.
yeah.
It's
Well,
great taste.
yes, that's why I love, talking about books with you and Emma, because there are, kind of these hidden gems that I wouldn't have found out about otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, well, my first book is a series, and it is the Henry Huggins series by Beverly Cleary. And
Okay.
this is one that I experienced for the first time as a child. And so it's
Huh.
very, very nostalgic for me. He lives in a really quaint neighborhood. His street is called Klickitat Street. And he is a neighbor to Beezus and Ramona Quimby.
Oh, okay. I've
Yes.
read those books, but I haven't read his books. So
Yes, so maybe it's that I didn't experience Ramona as a child. I'm not sure. I did read some Ramona books for the first time last year and I liked them, but Henry Huggins really has my heart.
oh,
I love his little life. And the first book starts out where he finds this stray dog that he names Ribsy. and they are just such firm friends. And I'm not even a dog person, but the friendship between Henry and Ribsy is so precious, and I love it so much. And he's kind of this dog who he doesn't realize he's too like doesn't realize how big his own body is, so he's always like bumping into things, and he's just a big clumsy kind of dog, but he's very endearing. And so what I find really charming is that Henry, he gets into a lot of scrapes, but he always gets into them, with the best of intentions. So he gets a pet guppy. He wants a guppy. His mom says he can get one. And the pet shop owner is like, you know what? I'll throw in an extra guppy. And he's like, great, a free guppy. Well, it's a male guppy and a female guppy. And so then in a few weeks, they have like hundreds of guppies. And he's using up all his mom's canning jars, trying to take care of all the guppies. He's very hardworking. He throws himself really hard into projects. And since he's an only child, he's really playing with neighborhood kids a lot. He's friends with Beezus. He's not really friends with Ramona. I love, there's a whole Christmas section where he gets cast in the classroom Christmas play as the little boy, and he's so humiliated, just a little boy. It's when he's in like 4th grade. And so then right before, though, they're rehearsing, and Ribsy comes to watch the rehearsal and accidentally with his tail knocks over a can of green paint and covers Henry in the green paint. And so then Henry gets to play a green elf, and he's very, very excited about it. So yeah, just
sparkle.
Yes. So I'm really have such fond memories. We would do some big road trips because we lived in Mississippi, and we would travel to see my dad's family in New York State, and then travel down to South Carolina. And so we spent a lot of time in the car together. And Neil Patrick Harris reads these audiobooks, and
nice.
They're so good and so cozy. So yeah, I love the Henry Huggins series.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. My mom has a whole collection of Beverly Cleary books, and I do remember we read Ramona and Beezus, but now I'm going to have to look at her shelves and see if she has that one or one of the Henry Huggins books. Yes. There's several then?
There's 6 of them, I think.
Okay. I'll have to look and see if she has those. That sounds so fun. Especially really the fun. Play, the little boy. I remember in 2nd grade, we did a play. I was the girl with the golden curl or something, which was weird because I had the dark hair and I had to stick this curl on my head, and I just was like, oh my gosh. It was just, when you're in 2nd grade, you feel so embarrassed.
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I really love Beverly Cleary's writing, and I'm waiting for some audiobook holds to come in, because there's a whole collection that has Emily's Runaway Imagination is so good, but I'm hoping, I've read that one before and I reread it last year, but Mitch and Amy is also in that collection. I've never read that.
I think that is one of the ones my mom read to me, but I only have like real vague memories of it because she read a lot of those to me when I was pretty young. And so now you're making me want to go like look at her shelves, the Beverly Cleary book.
Yes. And I also am waiting for, it's called Socks, and it's about a family.
I read that one.
Okay. Yeah. They get a new baby, and Socks is the cat. And I think
kind
of their viewpoint on this new baby.
Yeah. I do remember that one. That one's cute.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I'm excited to read more of her. She's not really got this flowery writing style, but she has such a way of engaging you in a simple storyline.
Yeah, I remember, like, you're bringing back a lot of memories for me, because I feel like I mostly like had those read to me or read them when I was super young, and it's making me want to go check them out again. So middle grade is so cozy. Like, it's just such a nice, like, this time of year, it makes my heart warm.
No, I completely agree. All right, what is your second selection?
Okay, this one, I think I mentioned it to you not too long ago, but this one's called Running Out of Time. And it is Margaret, Peterson, Haddix. And we've talked about this term before, book evangelist, because I was a book evangelist as a kid. I think I probably read this a little bit more towards like 11 or 12, but I just like, I bought this book for everyone. I have 2 copies of it for some reason. I remember giving this to my cousin, who I'm not sure if she ever read it or was that interested in it, but I have to read this. This is the book that I was like, here, please read this.
Wow.
I think I'm so fascinated. So this is the one that's like the catalyst, you could consider it a mild spoiler. So warning, but it is the inciting incident. It happens within the first few chapters. So this story is about Jessie. I'm kind of looking at the back here. Her name is Jessie, and she lives with her family in a frontier village in Clifton, Indiana in 1840, or so she believes. And so a lot of the children in the village are getting diphtheria. People are dying. Things are getting really bad. And her mom tells her one evening, here's the little mild spoiler, it's not 1840, it's the 1990s.
Wow.
They are living a social experiment at a museum, and people can go see them in this museum. And it was inspired by a pioneer village that I've actually been to as a kid, which is part of why I think I thought it was so cool, because I'd actually visited this village. And it's called Connor Prairie. And I just thought it was so fascinating, because this girl has to go into the modern world. It's almost like time travel, but it's not. So she has to go into the whole story is her going into this modern world and trying to find medicine, trying to figure out how to save this pioneer village. And it's fascinating. There's some like evil actors in this, I guess I should say. There's some villains. There's some danger, and I don't know. I think there's something kind of exciting about an adventure story. I don't know how old she is. I think she's like 10 or 11, but there's something really exciting about like some kid just like going off into the big city, into the world, and watching, reading that as a kid, because like you don't want to do it as a kid, but it's so exciting to watch this like 10 or 11-year-old like survive all these crazy circumstances. And it's got twists and turns, so there's more twists and turns than just like the one that I mentioned. But if you want something that's kind of dystopian but not too scary and exciting and has a good ending, recommend this book.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it kind of sounds like all of the fun of a dystopian without kind of the stress.
Yes, exactly. It's not the Hunger Games. It has like, it's resolved well. Like it's got some level of coziness. But I just think it's fascinating because I'm so interested in history and, you know, time travel. Like I would love to time travel. Who wouldn't, who loves history?
Right.
And it's just that exciting thing of like, she's almost like time travel, but it's real life. I don't know. It's cool. And if you've ever been to Williamsburg or one of those living history museums and kind of wonder what would it be like to just kind of like shun the whole world and just live like this, you get to see a glimpse of that.
Wow. Oh, that is so great. I do remember you mentioning it, but now I need to add it to an official list so I don't lose track of it.
It's
Because
fun.
I'm always interested in finding more middle grade. Yeah, very cool.
Me too. All right.
Well, my second is another series, and it's the Babysitters Club.
Oh, I love those books. I almost put that on my list, but I couldn't find my copies.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I'm so sad. I didn't keep a lot of my childhood books. And I'm pretty sure I own them. I probably, used the library for some because there were over 100 of them.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm pretty sure I own some. And I have toyed with the idea before of rereading through the whole series, and making like a video series out of it. But then the thought of having to buy a bunch of them, which I don't know how often I would read them, it's put me off. But this has inspired me. I definitely want to see which ones my library has and revisit them. But
check Libby with your Kindle, because it's so funny. I was just thinking about, it's been so long since I've read them. That's another reason I didn't pick them, because I don't have as strong of memories of what happens. But my library has like way more than I thought that they would. So I think I may grab one on my Kindle this month before.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I think it's any book that has a group of friends doing life together. I just love books that have a real community feel to them. And I think it's interesting because there are some deeper issues that are in there.
Yeah.
And like, it's so funny too. Some of the problems that they think are problems are so kind of, they're not huge problems. Like when Stacey, she's so self-conscious about them finding out that she's diabetic, what are they going to think? But I like that it seems age appropriate, that is something that a teenager would worry about, or even they start it when they're slightly less than teenagers.
Yeah.
And also kind of a mixed family with, is it Marianne's mom or Christy's mom?
I think it's Christy.
Yeah, remarries. And so kind of having to deal with having step siblings. And I also, do you remember there's one, and I can't remember the name of it, but where there is a prank caller calling?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yes. And also kind of how to deal with children that don't want to listen when you're the babysitter. So yeah, I just think they are really, short reads, but they left such a kind of indelible memory on me. And it's a really sweet little New England town. And yeah, I just think it's a great, great middle grade series.
I love that you mentioned that, because like I said, they've been on my mind, but did you have a favorite character?
Oh, I was thinking about that. I think I was torn between Christy or Marianne.
Mm-hmm.
So Christy, I think she's kind of like in the Joe March category.
Yeah.
So I really liked how she wouldn't like something just because the whole group liked it. But she is also really intense. And so I think I appreciated kind of the very even-keeled nature of Marianne.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I thought they were all kind of cool.
Yeah.
But also what I think is really neat is now with this next generation is how they're making the graphic novels. So
I didn't know that.
Yes, I think they're kind of redoing all of them in graphic novel format. And they're really sweet. I've read a couple of them. Yeah, so they're fun.
Oh, that's fun. I think Claudia was my favorite because I thought she was so cool and artistic and I wanted to be that cool. But I took a quiz not long ago and it said that I was Marianne. So I was like, I could see that. I like Marianne a lot. But I think it said that I was Marianne. And then, I was going to ask you, did you ever watch the TV series? I think it was made in the 90s. And then they used to re-air it on the Disney Channel or something. But I remember I loved that original series.
So what's weird is I don't know how I missed out on it because we had cable. I don't know. And I think that's something my parents would have definitely let me watch. But I was looking into it and I think the full episodes are on YouTube now.
They are. And I think I saw that they're on Tubi as well.
Cool.
Because I was looking all this up because before the end of the month, I kind of wanted to reread the first Babysitters Club book and then watch the series or something.
Oh, fun. Oh, very fun. Now just talking about it, I'm like, maybe I should do that project because I feel like the library had like 85% of the series.
Yeah.
But now the movie though, I did grow up watching the movie. Did you watch?
Yeah, I loved the movie too.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did watch that.
But
there was something about the TV series that was my favorite. They used to play it a lot on Disney Channel. I think it was a very limited series, but they would just like play it over a lot. And every time I could catch it, I just loved it.
Maybe because kind of the movie had a more like grand scale plot and the TV series was more slice of life, kind of everyday feeling.
Yeah. That's definitely, I think that's why I liked that the most. But I haven't watched the newer TV series on Netflix. I've heard it's cute, but I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I haven't tried it either. I've been too scared.
Yeah, I think it's hard when something's very nostalgic for your own childhood. It's kind of weird to like get into the next generation. Like I'm glad they have it because I'm sure there are kids that have watched it and that's going to be their nostalgia and that's going to be their Christy and Marianne and Claudia. But yeah, for us, it's the originals.
Yes. Well, what is your third book?
Okay, let me see. Oh, this one is a really fun one. So I'll preface it with I was really into ghost stories as a kid, which makes no sense because they kind of scare me a little bit now. Like I have to be during the daytime. But when I was in first grade, which was maybe I have a spring birthday. So I want to say I was 6 years old because it was fall. There was a Scholastic book fair, one of the ordering things. And I knew I wanted something for Halloween. And there was a book called Wait Till Helen Comes. And I just saw it and I was like, I want to read it. And I was getting really tired of like the Amelia Bedelia type books that the librarians kept pushing at me, which those are very good books, but I was really ready. My mom always read like more, like not older, but like the chapter books that were a little bit more meaty, I guess, and a little bit more to them, were like the Newbery Award winners, those kind of books. So I think because
Amelia Bedelia are kind of written down.
Yeah, exactly. So I think because she would like read things to me that were like a little bit more like I said, like the Newbery winners, those kind of books, then I was just ready for something a little bit more like older middle grade at that age. But so my mom got it for me. And it's really kind of a creepy ghost story, but Mary Downing Hahn became my favorite author. And then I discovered, I really struggle between these two, but I decided to pick this one, which is called The Doll The Doll in the Garden. And it is kind of a ghost story, but kind of a time travel thing. It's cozier. Wait Till Helen Comes is exciting, but it's very creepy. And it's about a ghost at like an old farmhouse and all kinds of stuff. But this one is about a girl who, I think her mom gets divorced and they move to an apartment, and or some kind of duplex or something. It's run by an elderly lady, and it's kind of out in the countryside. It's surrounded by woods and fields. And one night she sees a cat, a white cat that has no shadow. And she decides to follow this cat. And this cat leads her to a doll that's buried in the woods. And so she finds the doll. And it's like, what's the story? And eventually this cat leads her into sort of this ghostly world, like this place where there's a field during the day. If she follows the cat through the hedge, there's this beautiful old, I think it's late Victorian or early Edwardian. I want to say, you can see the girl on here. I don't know if she's like 1890s or maybe the early 1900s.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure because I haven't read it for a little while, but she basically kind of like goes back to this ghostly time bubble. Like within this field, there's this house, there's this girl, and she's got a problem, which I won't give any more spoilers, but it's all connected to this doll. It's all connected to an elderly lady who lives either in this apartment complex or duplex. I can't remember what it is, but there's a mystery that this girl has to solve to kind of help this ghost and everything kind of like move on. And I don't know, it's just like, it's the right amount of creepy, but it's very heartwarming. It actually makes you like kind of cry. It's kind of sentimental and just, that's got a lot of emotions. I just remember connecting a lot with Mary Downing Hahn's main characters. I don't know, have you ever read her books? Like, I just was obsessed with her books.
I haven't. I was much more lowbrow. I read Goosebumps.
Well, I'm not sure that these are highbrow, but I just loved them.
Maybe not highbrow, but they seem, if they're holding up to your rereads, they seem like the writing quality may have been higher than Goosebumps.
Yeah, because I have reread this one and Wait Till Helen Comes several times, and I still get like chills reading it. And the emotions in this, like the friendship between the main character, the girl, I don't know, like 90s or when this was written, this main girl and this ghost girl, it's really cool. And just this mystery and the way this girl kind of like solves some things that have been, I don't want to give spoilers, but some things that have been amiss for like, I don't know, 80 years or whatever. So yeah, it's just really cool.
Oh, very cool. That actually sounds kind of reminiscent. There's a classic children's story called Tom's Midnight Garden.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Okay, that one is set in England, and it's kind of a similar setup. And so he can only find this garden at midnight.
Okay.
Where he's visiting. So yeah, that was pretty decent children's book that I don't remember when I read it. Yeah, a few years ago. Okay, my third one is a more recent find, and it is the Family Grandstand series by Ryrie Brink. And we read this for the Kindred Spirits Club last year. So we read the first one, I think it was maybe August was when we read Family Grandstand. And then the second one is called Family Sabbatical, and we read that in November. And I had no idea how much I was going to fall in love with these books. They're all about the Ridgway family. They live in a small Midwestern university town. Their father is a professor. Their mother is an aspiring mystery author. So she's always in the attic trying to write mysteries because their father, university professors aren't really known for being super wealthy. So they're always trying to find ways that they can make more money. And there are, I think it's three kids in the family. And there's just a lot of love in this family. And they have a college girl who's living with them and is supposed to be kind of a mother's helper, kind of do some things around the house. And they're really good friends with a football star. And he is worried he'll get kicked off the team because he's struggling in chemistry. And I just love how cozy it feels. And then Family Sabbatical is a bit more adventurous feeling because their father goes on sabbatical and they go to Europe. And they spend a lot of time in France. They meet so many interesting people. And the one thing that I love is that, home is a place, but it's also with your people. And so they're traveling and they want to celebrate Halloween, they want to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas, but they're in other countries where, Christmas is big, but it won't be like Christmas in Indiana. And Thanksgiving obviously is not going to be big anywhere else. or American Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
And what's really neat is that they end up having these really different versions of those holidays that they normally would, but it
Mhm.
ends up being special because they spend them together. So yeah, they're just full of laughs and heart. And I already can't wait to reread both of them.
Oh gosh, well that sounds so much fun. I hate that I missed the Kindred Spirits for that. But are those vintage books or are they more modern books?
They are. So Carol Ryrie Brink wrote Caddy Woodlawn.
Oh, okay. Think
Yes.
I read it as a child, but I don't have much of a memory of that, and I need to
Okay.
reread that at some point.
Yes. Yeah, no, Caddy Woodlawn is great. And then this winter I read Winter Cottage and I really liked it by her. And then in middle grade March, I just read The Pink Motel, which we've talked about. You have a book called The Pink Hotel.
Yes, and it is written, it's definitely, I don't know much about it, but it was written by the people who wrote Auntie Mame, which I think is a hilarious movie, a classic movie.
Oh,
And I think this one was written maybe in the early 60s. And it was a book that my mom had or my grandma had. I'm not sure, but I just
wow.
found it recently and I was just like, I'm totally going to read it because it looks like it has some palm trees on the front. So it looks like a good summer read and it sounds like it's a comedy. So, and it's set in the early
That's
60s. So it sounds fun.
Yeah, that's so interesting because the Pink Motel was set in Florida at a little hotel or a little motel. And it was really cute. So I'll be curious what you think of the Pink Hotel.
Yeah, I will have to report back. That's definitely on my summer reading list. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
All right, your fourth book.
Okay, I am going to show one that I cannot believe it took me this long to read it, just like Little Women, but I read this one this year. It's been one of my favorites so far this year, which is Little House in the Big Woods. I know I should have read this by now. This is my mom's old copy. And
Oh,
I think I told you in our last one, I've been trying to do a little project where I kind of go through books that I already own or that my mom owns and try to read as many as
yes.
possible. So I have to be honest, I wasn't sure about this one at first because of the slaughtering season scenes. And the first I was like, wow, we just hit the ground running with the pioneer life. Like, we're not even gonna not gonna ease you into it. We're not gonna be cozy. We're just gonna tell you how it was. We had to slaughter some animals in order to eat in the winter, which is very I understand that we had to do this and I eat meat, but I didn't need to quite know how it was all done. So there was a moment where I was like, maybe I need to not read this. And then I kept going and I loved it. And it's one of my favorite books so far this year.
Oh
And I think
no.
probably one of my favorite scenes is the barn dance, or not the barn dance, but like the dance that they have. I think it's at her grandparents' house. And they are they eat snow ice cream and they put
Oh,
maple sugar or maple syrup
yes.
over the snow. I thought that was so cool. Everyone just went outside, put snow on their plate,
Yes.
came inside to have the maple syrup put on it, and just
Oh,
the fiddle players and the dancing and the fact that her pa played
oh,
the fiddle. And I don't know, it's so cozy, and just the episodic
yes.
nature of the seasons and seeing the bear. I thought, was it a bear that Ma accidentally touches thinking it's the
Yes.
cow? That was
Yes.
I wonder if that happened in real life. I assume maybe it did.
I know it's hard to know. Like some of the
So
events were totally fictional and some
yeah.
not. And also I love at the dance how all of the babies, they just line up on a bed together. So
Yes.
cute.
Cute. It's so just that
Oh,
sense of community. Like, it's kind of scary at times because it seems so isolating. And so you get that feel for what that must have been like. But then when people come together, they really come together, they help each other. And it kind of reminded me of what's his name? I think his name is Kevin Sullivan, who did Road to Avonlea
oh.
and Green Gables. I was listening to one of his special features on my Road to Avonlea DVDs, and he said
Mhm.
something that I just loved so much that I think captures the spirit of a book like this. And he was talking about in those communities, or back then, people couldn't be mad at each other for too long, or people couldn't afford to
Wow.
be, just have too many feuds with each other because they literally needed each other for survival. If something happened,
Wow.
they needed to come together. And I think there's something
Wow.
kind of beautiful about that. I mean, I'm glad we have modern technology and, we can talk like this and connect with everyone
Mhm.
watching. But at the same time, it's kind of cool that people just couldn't afford to, get irritated with each other or be too rude to each other because they might need each other for survival. And I
Yes.
kind of love that sense of when there are people in this book, it's like everyone's coming together and it's just so cool.
It is. I feel like in modern society, in a way, we're more connected, but more lonely than ever.
Yes, I agree.
Because people don't try as hard with their average, in-person interactions. When I go to the library, like when I would take the boys to story time, none of the moms will talk to me. Which I'm like, this is, we're here anyway, right? We got out of the house. We might as well make use of it. But it's funny because I put The Little House in the Big Woods as one of my books. That was one of my
too funny. Too much
and I have really fond memories. So my favorite elementary teacher was Mrs. O'Donnell, and she was in 3rd grade. And I remember just being so captivated when she, in the afternoons, would read The Little House in the Big Woods to us.
That sounds so cozy.
It is. And what I loved is most of the other kids in my class weren't interested in reading chapter books on their own. But when Mrs. O'Donnell would read, everyone would listen. Yeah, so I loved that time when she would read. What's funny though is I did get in trouble with her once because I had gotten, one of my friends had told me about this book where there's a teenage sister and her little sister who's like 5 or 6 riding in a Ferris wheel, and the younger sister drops her teddy bear and dives after the teddy bear and falls off the Ferris wheel. It's very dramatic. And then she's in the hospital. So the book, I think, is called Get Better Baby Sister, because I was looking, or Get Well Baby Sister. The cover though that's there, it's part of a series. Like, I don't know if that's the one, because I remember the cover and it didn't look like that. So I'm not sure if I'm right about the title, but I got so caught up in this that we were supposed to be working on a project, and I was reading the book, and all of a sudden I just hear Mrs. O'Donnell yelling at me. And I look up and it's like I was so focused on the book. She had been talking to me and I hadn't even heard her.
Oh my goodness.
So it seems like something that would happen to Anne Shirley, like how she gets in trouble for me and her.
Yes, Anne Shirley problems. I think most readers can relate to that.
Yes. Yeah. So what I love about, how I said the Babysitters Club is kind of simple writing, Beverly Cleary, and The Little House in the Big Woods. It's just, I think if you have a love for what you're writing about, that comes across. And there's different kinds of excellent writing. And I just think Laura Ingalls Wilder was an excellent writer.
Oh yeah, totally. You can feel it. You feel like I love those books that you just feel like you're kind of, it's not boring, but you're living everyday life with those characters. And I think we've talked about this before. We kind of share that love in books.
We love it. We eat that stuff up.
I just want to be there. I think that's why I love reading, is I just want to experience what it's like through someone else's eyes or a different time period. And just those moments where it's not too boring or too slow, but you just get that slice of life. And I think that's very hard to capture because it can be very boring. But I do, Laura Ingalls Wilder, you just get excited, or you just get enthusiastic about just being in those small moments. And I don't know how she brings that little magic to life, but she just puts a spark in the smallest of scenes. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yes. Oh, so I guess I'll go, because that covered one, but I'll do a new one for me now. And so these small moments. This is one of my few books from childhood I still have, and it's the My Side of the Mountain trilogy by Jean Craighead George.
I've never heard of it.
Oh my goodness, Anne. So this is one that I do think some people might think it's boring, so it might not strike the right note for you. I'm not sure. But it's all about Sam. What is his last name? Let me see if I can find it. Sam Gribley. And he runs away from home, but he's like a Boy Scout. Okay. He's very confident. He can take care of himself. I think he's around 14 when he runs away, and he goes to live in the Catskill Mountains, and he hollows out the inside of a big tree. And he lives inside the tree. And does it say what kind of tree? I don't think it does, but it's a really huge tree, like big enough he can fit a bed and a little, like he has a little fireplace and things.
Yeah. All of that tree? That's the dream. Where is that? I want that. Can I move in?
Yes. Yeah. It's like a more modern kind of hobbit home. So he also finds this falcon that he names Frightful. I think she was abandoned. It could be he like steals the egg. So that, isn't so great, but it could be also that he finds her abandoned and he rescues her, and they have such a bond together. And so that's how he gets meat, is she will go and hunt things for him. And I love, like, it talks about how he'll make acorn pancakes. And it's just, I loved it. And so it is very, it can be kind of slow at times because he doesn't see hardly anyone else. There are a couple times he interacts with other people, but he really is on his own a lot. But then there's On the Far Side of the Mountain and Frightful's Mountain. So it's a whole series. She also wrote Julie of the Wolves. Maybe you've heard of that.
I think I have heard of that one.
Okay, yeah.
But I have, but this one sounds really interesting.
It is really interesting. And I think it'd be really cool, actually, like dream homeschool unit thing to do would be to read this with the boys and then do a trip to the Catskill Mountains.
Yes, that would be so fun.
Yes, yeah. And so I think it's really neat because, it has cool illustrations. Here's a map of the mountain.
Pretty.
And she was very much a conservationist. She loved the land and she wanted to protect it. And she had a series of, I forget what they're called, but she'll focus on a specific species of hawk. And she writes a whole story about that hawk, and wolves and, all sorts of things. So it's a really special series. And now I want to reread it. So maybe I will.
Yeah, you should. I definitely want to check this out too. I need to, as soon as this is up, or as soon as we get through talking, I'm going to write down everything and I still have from our last one. I definitely kept all those little pieces of the paper, and I'm going to try to read the books that you mentioned before too.
Well, I will love to hear what you think about any that you read. And now I really want to read is it Out of Time? What is it called?
Yes. I have it right here. What is it called? It's called Running Out of Time.
Running Out of Time. Okay, cool.
That was really
yes. All right. What is your next one?
Okay, my next one is a series, but now I don't feel so bad because you've mentioned several series, so I'll just kind of talk about it all at once. It is something just fell. Okay, we're good. It's the Rebecca series, which is an American Girl series. And I really struggled to pick. I was going to pick one of the classic 6 because I grew up with those and I love those, but I read these last year and they just really warmed my heart. It doesn't maybe quite compare to the nostalgia of the original 6, but I wanted to share these because I feel like the Rebecca books are maybe a little lesser known. And I love this box set too. It's got pictures on both sides.
Beautiful. And the ribbon.
Yeah. So this is about Rebecca, who is a Jewish immigrant in 1914, and her family comes through Ellis Island, and some of my Irish family came through Ellis Island. And so I think there's just a real connection for me of reading about what that life was like and them settling. They settle in New York, which my family didn't, but my family did settle in an immigrant community. And so there's just that coziness in this, but there's a lot of real history. And that's what I love about the American Girl books, is they show you the history and what things were really like, but then they kind of add these cozy moments. And so one thing that I didn't know about is it's her family is actually there. It's her cousins who come over. So it kind of like I think she may have been born in America, or she came over when she was little, but they bring over their cousins from Russia. And one of the cousins gets hurt in the boat. I'm going to put this down because it's heavy, but one of her cousins gets hurt in the boat, and he, there's like a question of whether he's going to be able to stay, because you had to be able to work. You had to not be disabled. You had to be in perfect health. And I thought, how terrifying. I did not know that. And so he's in a holding area to see if his leg is going to get better. And if not, he's like 14 years old. They're going to send him back. And the rest of the family can't even afford to go back because they spent all of their money to come to New York. And so those are those real moments that I think are so fascinating. But then there are these cozy moments where she and her cousin, they're in New York, and you wouldn't think that would be cozy at all, but they've got this immigrant neighborhood where, there's Italians, and they've got this Italian neighbor that she really connects with. He's celebrating Christmas and she celebrates Hanukkah, and they kind of like find commonalities there. And she kind of like helps make his Christmas really good, and he does something for her for Hanukkah. And it's just like, I love that aspect to it. And then there's another scene in one of the books where she and her cousin, it's summertime, and they decide to sleep out because it's so hot. They sleep out on the fire escape. And you wouldn't think that's so cozy, but they bring their mattress out there and their blankets, and there's like someone singing. I think it's an Italian man with a concertina singing in Italian as they're falling asleep, and they're like the city sounds, and they're whispering to each other and giggling, and it's so cozy. But the thing that I love the most about it is she loves the movies, and she has a cousin who's just becoming an actor, the early silent films in the 19 teens. And it does mention Charlie Chaplin, and I am a huge Charlie Chaplin fan, so that just got me right there. And then there is one book that's called Rebecca in the Movies, which is probably my favorite, which she gets to go to a film set with her cousin, and you get to see what things were really like in that silent film era. With me having my master's in film and literature, I studied a lot of that era. So I was like, this is cool because it's very accurate, but it made me feel as if I was there. Wow. And then there's like one at Coney Island. One of the books is set at Coney Island, and it just, it's such a good series. It came the closest to, nothing will ever compare to my original 6 nostalgia of reading that as a kid, but this one came the closest to like making me feel like a kid. So I highly recommend the series.
I almost think I've seen that series at the library, so now I definitely want to see if they have.
You probably have. American Girl again sells right now the abridged copy, so if you can find the original 6 books, a lot of times they cut out the summer story because it isn't always as connected. But that's the one set at Coney Island, and it's so fun. Yeah. Island in the 19 teens. So
yes,
good.
No, definitely want that included. Very cool, and also that gives me kind of All of a Kind family vibes.
Oh, I don't think is that a book? I haven't read that.
It's a whole series. And it's another one that Emma from Bookish Princess loves, about it's by Sidney Taylor. And it's a Jewish family in the Bronx. It's the Bronx or Brooklyn. The fans are going to be yelling at the screen. But it's really, really a beautiful series. And it starts out where there are 4 girls, and then eventually there's a 5th baby that's born, and it's their first boy. And so the dad is ecstatic. But yes, and there is a lot of bookish love. And in the first book, Ella, who's the oldest, she's like in her early teens. A boy starts to notice her whenever she's at the library, and he can't work up the courage to talk to her. And he sees that she always grabs, I can't remember which book it is, but it's always the same book. And she misfiles it on purpose so that no one will check it out, so that when she goes back to the library, it will be there for her.
Genius.
Yes, it is. So the boy leaves a note in the misfiled book. And so when the librarian passes by, she sees the misfiled book. She's like, what is this? And pulls it out and sees the note, and she doesn't have the heart to put it back in the right spot. So that then Ella will receive the note. Yeah. So it's a really fun series.
That makes me wonder if that inspired Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, because I think that book is super cute. It's like a Christmas book, and they have a Netflix series of it too, but it's like a notebook hidden in not in the library, but the Strand bookstore in New York. So I wonder if they were inspired by that, because the actual book like has so many bookish reference, like the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basley, and they talk about books constantly. So now I'm wondering if like they were inspired by that. That's cute.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Yeah. So then my last book that I want to talk about, this is a copy I bought a couple of years ago, and I did not read The Wind and the Willows until last year or the year before that. And I loved it so much. It was one of those books that I just knew I couldn't enjoy. I just decided like, no, it's all like animals being like people. I won't like it. And I was so glad to be proved wrong. I adored this book from start to finish. And talking about cozy, like all of the food that is referenced in here, and really, who needs to be more sheltered from the weather than animals? You know what I mean? Like they live outside. So the way that they try to make their dens, as cozy as possible is so delightful. But they're very like upper crust British animals. And so it's just, the combination is so cozy. And then one of my favorite parts is there's one of the characters who's Toad. Look at this bedchamber with like the vegetables hanging there.
That is so cute.
Dressing robes. Oh, yes. And then there are little caroling mice that come at Christmas time.
Oh, that is so cute.
So cute. But yes, one of the really comical elements of the story is Toad of Toad Hall. And he is just such a fool, but they all tolerate him and they hope that he will grow. And he has some issues with being a reckless driver, and he gets his license taken away. So
I have ridden the ride at Disneyland.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's so great.
He's a very reckless driver.
He really is. I forgot there was a ride. That's so fun. So yes, this is the November pick for Kindred Spirits Club. So I cannot wait to share it with everyone else. And yeah, so I'm just so glad it's one of those classics. I was like, please don't let me down. Please don't let me down. And it did not let me down.
Well, I have never read it, and now I will have to join in for that for Kindred Spirits because I've always wanted to, but I don't like the cartoon. I always like skip past it for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but I've heard the cartoon is very different. I mean, as most Disney cartoons are, very different from the book. So now you've inspired me to feel like, okay, I might like the book.
Yes, and the writing is just beautiful. Like the way it describes the landscape and everything. I think, hopefully, I could be wrong, but I think you will be really impressed with the writing. Okay, so do you have one left?
Yes, I do. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually have like 3 sitting here in case we had any doubles. So I'm just gonna pick because I couldn't decide. And I'm just gonna pick. What's it gonna be? I think I'm gonna pick Nancy Drew and The Secret of the Clock because I really do. I did love the Nancy Drew series so much when I discovered it. My mom had some books, so I discovered her books, and then I got some of my own. And this is one of the like redone ones. It's like the glossy kind. She has the matte, but she didn't have this one. But this is the one that started it all, so I had to choose this one. And since it is a mystery, I don't really want to give spoilers, but I don't know what it is about her. Like I don't read a lot of mysteries, and I want to read more mysteries, but there's something about Nancy Drew or anything that's like that. Like I know this is a weird comparison, but Sherlock Holmes and Nancy Drew not alike at all, but I love this sort of almost superhero vibe to the mysteries. And I like mysteries are never too gory or anything too crazy. And it's just like, you feel like Nancy Drew can do anything. And it's just like, especially when you're younger, I think there's something cool about reading her books because she's this very cool girl. And, she's got these beautiful clothes and this cool car, but yeah, she's so smart. She's not stupid. She's not, she kind of like has all these sides to her personality. It's like, you can dress cute, but you can also be a sleuth, and you can get yourself in trouble, and you can be really smart, and, and you can solve all these crimes and save the day. And I don't know. I just love everything about Nancy Drew, and I really want to reread those books because it's been a while. So it's been on my mind lately.
And I've talked before to you about how great the audiobooks read by Laura Linney are.
Yes, those are, I saw that Libby has some of those. And so I think I would really like to listen to some of those, or even sometimes I do like to listen to an audiobook and read it at the same time. So you can actually see the words and then, get really absorbed into it. So I hadn't been able to find my Nancy Drew books for a little while. I'd misplaced them. And so I just found them last November. And so I put them all out, got them on my shelves. They were in a box with some other things accidentally. And so I'm really excited to pull some of those out again. But there's just so many good middle grade books.
There are. Thank you so much, Anne. And I hope everyone who's watching this back really enjoys it. And if you think there are some kind of book doppelgangers to the ones that we talked about, please recommend them in the comments.
Yes, I would love to hear.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be back for our next excessively diverted episode. I don't know when, but
we hope you were excessively diverted in the meantime.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.